we're seated here today. I have the privilege and honor to host this week's segment for our podcast. All-Star Game was just held last night. The summer ritual, the psychological midpoint of the season. This year was a little extended, a little late. But our show today is going to do a few things. We're going to recap the first half of the season, look at what happened, and then we're going to lend our expertise in predicting what is going to happen. Don't empty your bank account to right. Please. don't take everything we say with a grain of salt, because it's not to the bank. And then the last thing, we're going to have a little fun, and we'll get to that after we do our recap. So, you want to start us off?
Sure. First half of the season was like a roller coaster. It was a roller coaster for the Mets, for the Yankees, for the Dodgers, for a lot of teams, right? We sat here a month ago. I thought the Mets were dead in the water. And then they got hot.
Yes.
And now I think they're a playoff team. I think that if they shore up their bullpen a little bit, they'll be a playoff team. You got the usual suspects. The Phillies are the best team in the National League. Braves are solid. Dodgers, Milwaukee. And I think the Mets are a playoff team. The other team I think might make it National League is the Padres. If they had a leader on that team, I think they'd be a playoff team. But they only have Machado, and he's not a leader. So that's what I think is interesting. The American League, I'm a believer in Cleveland. Chris has been touting Cleveland all year. I'm on board. I always said that I'm not picking Cleveland, Minnesota, or the White Sox until they win, because they fool me every time. But Cleveland's a good team. They're solid, and they can rake. Those baby birds in Baltimore are going to be very interesting, because they still have a solid farm team, and they've got an owner with some money now. So it'll be interesting to see what they see do with the deadline in the offseason. The West, I hate to say it, but I think those Astros are
coming up.
Yeah, I don't think Seattle can hold them off, even though they have starting pitching.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's what I got.
Chris, what are you feeling?
I'm pretty much with you there. I think the AL East race is going to be very interesting, coming down to the final few games between the Yankees and the Orioles. I think the Orioles are a better team, but I think the Yankees, you can never bet against Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. So I'm hopeful, at least. As a Mets fan, I know I'd let my Mets bias get in the way sometimes, but I do think the Orioles are a better team for that race. Out west, I'm with you there in the American League. The Astros, I was down on them in the season. I was like, there's no way they're going to win. But, it's within a game. I believe they're in first at the All-Star break at this point. The Central, I've been talking about Cleveland since the beginning of this season. Yes, look around that infield. Look at Jose Ramirez. They're just a good team. They just win baseball games at a high rate. Stephen Kwan's batting almost 380. And they just had the number one pick. He won't be up this year, but Travis Bazzana, I was very high on him in college. Batted over 400 this year. 1,500 OPS in college. The dude is a pure hitter. Mm-hmm. And it's not so often you get a team that's in first place gets the number one pick for in the season. So I think he'll be up probably next year. But they're going to be even better.
Yeah.
Christian, before you go more, Christian follows college baseball, high school baseball very closely. He texted me during the draft. The Mets just drafted the American Ohtani.
Yeah.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, I think they're saying his name's Carson Benji. I think they're saying he projects more as a hitter, but as a lefty arm running up to like 95 as well. So I think they should at least give him a shot to do both. Yep. A few years ago this might have been unheard of, but Shohei Ohtani's kind of paving the way for some more two-way prospects nowadays. So
see how he does next year, Ohtani. When he gets back on the mound.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see him. He's throwing now. I saw.
Not throwing off a mound.
Yeah, not off a mound, but he's throwing. It's crazy. I forget he is rehabbing an arm injury, and he's hitting this season the way he is. It's insane to watch, really. Going back to the National League, I think where we see eye to eye with the Phillies, I think they're arguably the best team in baseball. The Braves are right there. I think they're still like 9 games back though of the Phillies. They're running away with it. NL Central, Milwaukee's winning, and NL West, I got the Dodgers.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of falls in line. I'll agree. the first half, the roller coaster for sure. I'll talk about the two New York teams.
Yeah.
The Yankees got off to a really good start, but they just can't get out of their own way. Their lineup is, hard to say, but it's missing Stanton. Who would think? I mean, the guy is always getting injured, but I think this year more than ever, they needed him. Judge and Soto are doing all they can do. All right, you can't ask more.
Yep.
But they're weak after that. The Verdugo and Volpe have been non-existent after the first month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the challenges. They're still got the pedigree. Cole is back. He's kind of getting back on track. Heel had a little bump. Like the last couple of starts, he's gotten better. So it's going to be between Yanks and Baltimore, and watch out for the Red Sox as a wild card in the American League. I don't know if they could challenge the division, but stranger things, I guess. Cleveland is the pick. I agree in the Central, and the Astros they're the best team in baseball over the last 5 weeks. So it's hard to keep them down. In National League. Yeah, the Phillies are just a class of the league. They have pitching. Their lineup is deep. So it's going to be hard to knock them out. But, the trend is, wild card, you get in and see what happens.
Yep.
And I think Atlanta is going to be there. But, I know something's not right with them this year. They've had the injuries, certainly bad luck. And they've always been able to get past it. But, I don't know. I don't see them as the playoff threat, And the Mets, who knows? If they could get Senga back and he's in form, they get help in that bullpen, which is just hard. It's just beyond bad. They need arms in there. They got to get that right. They're giving up, leads. It's nothing safe.
Yeah.
But their lineup is good. That's not the issue.
Yeah.
So I really like the way they play. Inglacia, so I like the play. In the Central, it's kind of Milwaukee is there, and I agree, but there could be the Cardinals are good. I think they're going to be good for a wild card, and Padres and the Mets. I think will pan out. The West is the Dodgers. I don't think they're gonna. They've gotten some injuries. They really have. So. We'll see what happens. We won't make our playoff predictions until next episode, I guess. Right. But that's that's our take. Okay. You're right, Chris. Last time we spoke, I was trade them all. And it's just
flushing by the bay.
Right. Alonso, whatever. That's going to be interesting what they do decide to, because that still may happen.
I agree. And piggybacking onto that,
think they'll trade him?
I think it's open because they're only going to get a fourth round compensation pick if they go. So that's a big deal. And but I don't know where I don't think at this point this team should be trading him. I think that would really dishearten the guys there.
I think you're right.
I agree. And I'm right with you. We were there a few weeks ago saying trade them all, rebuild, it's over. But going to a few games this season, I mean, I was there just last week against Washington, the series before the final series of the first half, and this whole atmosphere has changed. I mean, I was at a game versus the Giants.
When was this?
This was just last week. I went.
Okay.
Yeah, last Wednesday, and that game. I mean, the atmosphere was great. No, not really any empty seats in the stadium. And then I was there in May, and you could basically walk in there without going through security. They're winning now.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, exactly.
The fans, it seemed like, are rallying more behind this team. I mean, the whole, you've seen the Grimace thing.
Yeah, I love
since
it.
he threw the first pitch, we won the next 7 games in a row, and then after that, Jose Iglesias is giving free concerts after games.
Right.
I mean, this team is starting to feel more like a team. They're starting to play for each other.
I agree.
And you don't always see that in professional sports, and happy to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need at least 2 arms in the bullpen.
Yeah, they have to straighten that.
They found a guy.
I watch these guys.
They found a guy in Jose Budo. He was a starter his career. They brought him up as a starter. Didn't really pan out a few years ago, and then now he's back. He has like a 1.8 ERA this year.
He's been dependent. Nunez, right?
Yeah. Nunez. I like him.
And Diaz, he's got to right himself, but now they got to straighten that one out.
Diaz is the least of their problems.
No, yeah, they got to, yeah.
Diekman has
Oh,
been awful.
all right.
So, go ahead.
So, when I was asked to kind of host we wanted to come up with an interesting twist. So here it is. If you had the opportunity in your life to go to any one specific sporting event, now a one-day event, not a series, which event would you pick that you would want to be live and present to witness, and why?
Why don't you start?
Okay, wow. Okay, so, all right, there are a lot of things. I mean, there are games that you say, "Wow, I wish I was at," but this is like you have to be so specific, and you can't. It's not one for each sport. So, what's your favorite sport? Does it qualify? Is one sport event one day so spectacular that's where it would be? I'll give you a couple, and then I'll tell you which one. Everyone's list should be topped the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey victory over the Soviet Union. That single most chilling event ever. It was in a semifinal game. It wasn't for a championship, but it essentially was. It was just spectacular. The feeling that people had. My wife, Lori, was at the game.
Really?
7,500 people were present. She and her family went. They bought tickets to the Olympics, and their tickets does not say U.S. Soviet Union. It says semifinal game Friday night, 5 o'clock, and they just dumb lucked into this. It was very cold up in Lake Placid, and my wife, her brother, and her parents were at this thing, and they were freezing cold. Lori's mother wanted to sell the tickets and go to Florida. Fortunately, clear heads prevailed. My brother-in-law David said, "If we do that, I will never speak with you again." They ended up going in history. The other thing for me is being a Met fan, Game 6, 1986. Again, just, that's one of the classics, really. And then I'm a big international soccer fan.
Oh.
Italy, Forza Azzurri, for the Italian. Yes. So their win in 1982, that run was just spectacular. And then the championship game against Germany that year was just really watching it. I remember watching it, following them. They beat all the heavyweights. They beat the Argentina team with Maradona. They beat the Brazil team with Socrates. Paolo Rossi, a great striker for them, scored a hat trick in that game against Brazil. One of the most remarkable, stating it as one of the best games ever. Wow. And Italy went on to win. So, got to make a choice, and it's probably the U.S. Soviet Union hockey game for me.
Okay. All right. How about you?
Okay, let's finish.
Because,
So as
you've got a smaller field.
Right, you do, right. An inventory. Your inventory is a little less.
So
I'm curious.
as you've mentioned before, I'm a big fan of college sports, and like you were saying, you have to find out like what's your favorite sport, and you've got to really deep dive into it. And baseball is my favorite sport. However, I'm a huge fan of March Madness, and the event I would choose would have to be the 2016 National Championship in March Madness, Villanova versus UNC. First off, huge rivalry there already. These two teams have been at each other for a long time. And the way it ended was 7 seconds on the clock. Ryan Arcidiacono dribbles up to the three-point line, passes it back to Chris Jenkins, 3-ball at the buzzer, ball game. Mm-hmm. Everyone storms the court. It was one of the loudest crowds I've ever seen. I remember watching it live, and I couldn't believe it. So that is the one I would choose to experience.
Great.
That's a good choice.
I'm
surprised.
You have a limited Met inventory, so there's that.
I mean, they've never won since I've been alive. We had 2015 when they were in it, but they ended up losing. So
a good choice.
So we've got soccer and college basketball. I'm going to go to my strength is baseball. That's what I do. And I thought about this a lot when Martin brought it up. There are two games that I saw on TV.
Okay.
That I would love to have been there. It's not the game I'm going to pick up. One was the '63 World Series first game. Koufax struck out 15 Yankees. And after the game,
Mhm.
Mantle said, we don't have anybody like him in our league because they didn't play any interleague games.
Yes, yeah.
And Berra said, Koufax was 25-5 that year. Berra said, I know how we won 25. I don't know how we lost 5 games. That's a direct quote. The other game was 2 years later, 7th game of the World Series. Koufax again, my guy, pitched a 3-hit shutout on 2 days rest. Third game he pitched in 8 days. All you pansies out there, everybody gets a trophy. And home plate umpire said it was the best game he ever. He only had a fastball.
Mhm.
Just threw fast. And the Twins could hit. They had Zoil Vasais, who was
Right,
the MVP.
right.
They had Harmon Killebrew, Tony Oliva, Don Mincha, Earl Batty, Bob Allison, Richie Rollins. They could rake. And Koufax just threw it by him. But if I could be at one game
Mhm.
and this is the game that actually made me a fan of baseball. And I didn't know what was going on, but I knew it was important. It was the 1955 Game 7
Oh.
World Series. My great-grandfather, my uncles were all huddled around a little black and white TV set, and they were screaming and yelling. So I knew something important. I was 4 years old. I knew something important was going on. And then afterward, they're banging pots. They were things. I would love to be at that game, and I was at Yankee Stadium,
Yeah.
and then just see what the reaction was in Brooklyn afterwards, because
Mhm.
I hear so many stories about it. The only time Brooklyn ever won, and that would be my one game
Yeah.
if I could attend.
All right, that makes complete sense. That was it. Well, that's a great thing to think about, and it's bad that you have to pick one. You know, that's where the question's formed. But you think about it, and that's what makes sports unique. Because international soccer is my favorite.
Yeah.
I don't follow leagues as much as some guys. It's getting more play, and the hockey is a good sport for me, and that the game I pick. But it's what makes us have the interest. You know?
It is. It
So-
is.
Well, great. Thank you
Yes,
for allowing
thank
me
you.
to host in this capacity. Appreciate it. We'll look forward to getting together and speaking again.
Yes, sir. See you next time.
Yes, next.